Hello, everyone. Today we are going to be doing a movie review. I just wanted to say welcome back to the channel. If you like this content, please feel free to hit the like button, subscribe, and we will love to be bringing new content to you. Today I'm joined with my husband,
Hello.
and together we are going to get into this movie review. It's definitely one of our favorites, so I'm super excited to share this with you all.
So this movie is called Big Legend. It is a Bigfoot movie, and we found it while we were in college. We were looking for some cheap date ideas, and I was going through some of the like dollar or $5 bins in Walmart, and this is when I saw the movie cover with Bigfoot on it, and I knew that this movie would be a hoot. So I wanted to get it, and I'm so glad we did because, like she said, this is one of our favorites.
Yeah. So I'll just get into an introduction of the characters, Tyler and Natalie. I don't think that they say their names really much at all. But we're just kind of shown the fact that they're in love, and very quickly on, Tyler shows that he has a ring picked out for Natalie and is planning to propose to her on this trip. Tyler seems to have been the one to plan the whole thing. He kept saying, "You want it off the grid," or something like that. So, along the lines of, this is a secluded area, not many people go. They There's not too much to talk about in the beginning. It's just a lot of being proved that they're in love and everything and goofing off, having fun.
I will say though, they do let you know that it is going to be a horror movie because almost right off the bat there is a quick jump scare when she hugs him from behind, and they do a little animal sound, which is really funny because I don't know where that animal sound comes from at all.
Yeah, that's true. So they find this like one spot that's by a waterfall. That's where Tyler proposes. Natalie's super excited. Then it continues on. They set up camp, go fishing, all kinds of, small outdoorsy things to grow their bond closer. We are shown Tyler setting up a string with a bell on it as a perimeter for any kind of wildlife or any kind of endangerment that could come near their tent. They are woken up in the middle of the night. Natalie is, I think, the one that first is woken up and wakes up Tyler, is like, "Hey, what's that noise? I hear something." He's like, "Ah, no big deal. Who cares? Go back to sleep." Then they hear something else, and she is even more startled, and he's like, it's probably like a deer or an elk or something. Go back to sleep." They hear the bell. They hear the bell ring, and it sounds like somebody took the bell and was just ringing it. It wasn't something moving it. It was really just the bell straight up being rung. Um, so that's when Tyler is like, "Okay, I gotta actually act on this." So he gets up, gets his gun, and goes outside.
And right before he goes outside, although Natalie at this point has been telling him, "Hey, you need to go out there. You need to go check it out. Like, I don't feel safe. All this stuff." As soon as he gets ready to go out there, she's like, "No, no, don't go out there. Don't go out there. It's not safe." And he's like, "No, no, don't worry." But both times he's telling her to chill out, basically.
Yeah, and I will say his biggest downfall throughout the whole intro scene is he has told Natalie several times she's safe. He won't let anything happen to her. She's going to be protected by him, which is, of course, like a foreshadow
His guilt.
of what's to come. So Tyler gets out of the tent and he's looking around trying to figure out where the noise is coming from. Natalie is just cowering in the tent waiting for something. Then we see Tyler spotting a tower of rocks, and they are peculiar, peculiarly.
Peculiar. Oh, wait, hang on.
You can't say that.
Peculiar.
Okay, let's just say
Oddly.
oddly placed. um, Stacked up on each other. Should I just do that whole part again?
Sure, peculiar.
No, I'm gonna do oddly. But
Peculiar.
um, so anyways, so he spots a tower of rocks oddly stacked up on each other, and that's when we cut back to Natalie, and she gets, what we can tell, grabbed. It's a very dark and blurry scene, but it seems like the whole tent and her get grabbed and taken off. We see Tyler screaming for her. I don't think that he really ran around or anything. He's just standing there screaming for her, looking all around, and then it fades to black.
Which I will also like to point out, this is the first time that we learned her name is actually Natalie, because that's when he starts screaming her name.
And then we have the intro, Big Legend, come up on the screen.
So with that being the intro, you know you're in for a treat. So we get a little time card, and we know that 1 year has passed, and we see him, and he doesn't look like he's been doing well. He's been having a rough time since then. And we find out that he's actually been in a mental institution, is sitting across from him, asking him what happened that night, what really happened. And he says with a straight face, bear attack. Um, she said, "Well, I better not regret my decision." But because he says, the right thing, they let him go. And she says something to him along the lines of, survivor's guilt is very difficult to deal with. And as he walks away, he says, survivor's guilt, that implies that somebody died. Which, her response is like, yeah, no duh. Uh, and he goes, they never found the body. As he's gets some of his items from the institution, his mom comes and picks him up and almost immediately wants to start talking about it, even though he makes it very clear that he just wants to not talk about it, just kind of want to move on with his life. And this is where it almost feels like gaslighting at a certain point when his mom starts telling him who he is. She starts telling a whole story about him and a bunny rabbit for Easter and wanting to make sure that like how did this bunny hide the eggs and all this different stuff. And she's like, yeah, and if your dad was here, I mean, he would want answers too. So it's very clear that his mom wants him to find out what happened, even though he didn't really seem to want to at first. But either way, he does get the resolve. And so she tells him, hey, the police actually just now dropped off some stuff from the investigation. And, it was everything that they found at the campsite when they were looking for Natalie. And so that's when they get his box, which, has all of his hunting and camping gear, which is everything he's going to need for a trip going back out to find out what really happened. And as he's going through everything, he sees a camera and he sees all the pictures, which is really bittersweet as he sees pictures of Natalie. As he's flipping through all the pictures, you see what seems to be a little glimpse of what can only be described as a Bigfoot in the background. But I have several questions for this photo. One, if he didn't already know that Bigfoot was out there from, when he took the picture, what was he taking a picture of? Because that picture is nothing but just Bigfoot in the background. Which would also give me the question of how did the police, after a year of investigation, not notice this picture? He gets all his gear together and he heads on out.
And then we're shown one of my favorite scenes in the movie as he goes to leave his mother's house. We are given a close up of a bare lamp. And we can't help but think, was it either insensitive? Was it to show, could it really be a bear? Is it him being like, there's no way this could be a bear, and because he looks back at the lamp. So we're taken back to what looks like to be about the same spot that Natalie and Tyler were in the first scene. We're also shown a offering thing that's hanging on the trees, which will come up a little bit more later on. But then he stops and gives this disgusted looking face. And it is so long that we're waiting to see what he even sees. It's not until he stares at it for a while, walks away, and then we're shown what it actually was. For a little bit there, I honestly thought it was a Bigfoot turd, his facial reaction for it. Turns out it was a footprint. Classic. So then Tyler finds a stream. He sets down his backpack and his rifle, takes out his water bottle, goes up to the stream and fills it up. This is a reminder right here to stay hydrated, everyone. Sees that his backpack is missing and drops his water bottle. After all of this going out exploring, I don't know where to or anything, gets back to the car. That's where he decides to sleep for the night, when he is awoken by his car being shook. Then a rock comes out of nowhere, shattering his windshield. He grabs his gun. So he is obviously on high alert, like, what is attacking me? What's going on? And then we are introduced to a new character.
Okay, so this character's name is Eli, but mind you, you would never know that from the dialogue. We actually didn't know that until our recent viewing of this movie when we decided to put on subtitles for the first time, and the subtitles will let you know this is Eli. But this is just a an older man, maybe 50s or so, who just is in the woods, and he comes up and says,
Car trouble, Chief?
which Chief is his go-to phrase.
Chief? Chief, 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 Chief.
You know, he asks him a few questions, but he calms down a little bit.
I also wanted to include this clip of his reaction
Could have been a bear. A bear.
because it's this whole movie a constant back and forth of, is it a bear, is it not a bear? And I don't understand if they're trying to convince each other, if they're both questioning it. I have no idea the purpose of it.
Yeah, so this whole question, which we didn't buy this movie to watch a bear attack. We bought this movie to watch Bigfoot. So we know who it is, but again, yeah, there's always this confusion. Well, what is it? As they go on, he uh Eli, I mean, invites him for a beer at his place, which is just another campsite not too far away. So, with nothing else to do, Tyler just goes ahead and follows the stranger, and this is when they kind of go with their back and forth of, well, what are you doing out here? Well, what are you doing out here?
You tell me something.
Which, fair point for both of them. This is, kind of a weird place to be to meet someone. Both of them are not there as the owners of the property. And this is when we learn a little bit more about it, as Eli tells Tyler that this place is owned by or a company named Xylon, and despite them owning the property, they have never actually done anything with it. They never send people out for surveys or anything, and he says that has always made him curious. So that is why Eli goes out there, because he wants to know what's going on, what's really going on. He tells him that his dad would let him play out in the forest, but never go past the symbol, and he would show him the sort of Native American offering thing that we on the tree that we saw earlier in the film. His whole life on this property, trying to find out what's going on, and he's never crossed this perimeter. But I mean, I guess if a stranger's, in trouble, then it's time to time to take action.
But we are given one of my favorite lines during their conversation while they're drinking beer, which is Eli is saying, I know you've seen and heard things because I have. And he said something along the lines of, you ever heard the knocking in the night and the rocks stacked oddly or something like that. And Tyler goes,
I heard the knocking. I saw some rocks.
So that they kind of continue on with this kind of mutual respect and understanding that they're both out there for some reason. And Eli actually says he does actually recognize him from the tube, which we're assuming he means the television. But he knows the story ish, and comes to find out that Tyler is also from the military. He has a military background because he can tell. Well, cut that part out because we don't know that yet. My bad. Around this time, though, he's talking about the perimeter and everything. Tyler seems to sort of chop him up to be sort of conspiracy theorist, as you do out in the woods with a stranger. And as Tyler's walking away, Chief speaks up and says, I want to see him. I want to see the big man.
See what? The big man.
Which I love that line. Tyler turns around and says,
Like I said, Chief, I don't believe in fairy tales.
I thought we were just led to believe by his mom that, he always wants to find the answer for everything, including how did the bunny hide the eggs. But now, he's this skeptic. Of course, Eli points out the obvious. Well, what got your girl then, Chief? He says, with the most confidence I've ever heard someone say this, I don't know. That's how they leave that conversation. They head back and find out that Eli's place is completely wrecked. Just everything is just destroyed, which, the first time we watched it, I didn't catch that it was wrecked because it looked like a dump anyways. But, there was a giant tree that was thrown into the fire, like standing up. So that, when you notice that, something happened. And Tyler at this point is like, wait, well, why did he do that? And Eli says, well, isn't it obvious? They don't like the fire. So now we know Bigfoot doesn't like fire. That's going to be important later. They're on high alert, and this is when Tyler says, well, we don't need to worry because you listen to that. And they listen, there's some birds in the background. He says, nature's letting us know that it's safe now. And because I've heard that before plenty of times that the forest gets quiet when a predator is around. So I think that's pretty common hunting knowledge. But with that, Eli immediately jumps and says, "Oh, you're with the military. People who know all about nature." And so now you know that he's part of the military, Tyler, that is. But while they're there and nature is supposed to be quiet, they hear a very, very loud roar, and they immediately run after it because this could be it, the bear slash big man. And this is, I don't remember if it was this time or later, but the roaring, I thought it sounded really familiar. And we'll play the two audio clips side by side so you can make a guess. But this is Bigfoot. And this is a Rancor from the 1983 Star Wars movie. Pretty similar, at least I thought at the time. So I don't know if that's copyrighted or not, but very funny, I thought. So as they're running, they come over this sort of this small hill, I guess you could say. And as they're going over it, Tyler's not really watching where he's stepping because he's running, and he trips and splashes into. We're not entirely sure. It's red water, which there's buzzing, and we're not really sure if this is like his bathroom or this is where he eats. But I do like to think that yes, he just face planted it into Bigfoot's toilet. And you see bones and you see all this other stuff, evidence of other campers. So, obviously he's done this a lot, which it is also funny to think that Bigfoot is definitely a collector of sorts. He's a kleptomaniac, as evident from this scene, and also from him stealing the backpack of Tyler earlier and the tent in the beginning of the movie. Can't forget about that. But I do like this little piece of lore that Bigfoot is always very interested in human stuff. But all this to say, they're looking around, and this is, horrifying. No bear does this, obviously. And while they're looking around, you see this. We have this scene where Eli's just standing there, minding his own business, just looking around. And a rock flies out of nowhere, hits him in the leg, and he just starts screaming because from evident from the way it hits him and the way he collapses, it just completely broke his leg. And Tyler, with his poop red water hands, Eli's mouth after firing a few shots in the air, and says, "Quiet." Which, being that Bigfoot just threw a rock at his leg, I think Bigfoot knows that they're there. But after a little bit of them sitting in there in silence, he hands him a gun, and this is my favorite scene in the entire movie. We have what I can only describe as like a sort of montage ish of them running, which, obviously Eli can't run. And so it's Eli being dragged and carried and hobbled all throughout the forest. And partway through, I think almost immediately into the montage, they trip over the hill and start rolling down. Um, Tyler hands him a gun at one point. While this is happening, the climate completely changes. You go from what seems to be like a sort of humid forest to like tons and tons of snow, and then by the end of it, the snow is already melting a little bit. So you can tell that this scene took several days to shoot, which I don't blame him for that. But it was funny that they didn't wait for at least similar weather to start doing all that. And by the end of it, you think, wow, shoot, they must have been running for days. No, this was probably about 5 minutes.
I also noticed that they tried to explain away the weather changes, even though it was like a minute, 30 seconds to a minute between scenes.
Hurry up, Chief. That weather's moving in.
I didn't know if you knew about that part.
No, I did not realize that. But also, while we're talking about this, I also just realized that he just woke up from the truck not like an hour ago, maybe. And by the end of this, it's already getting kind of dark and a storm is coming.
So, the reason why we know it wasn't a very long hike down to where Eli is set down is because Tyler realizes this is another one of my favorite scenes. Tyler then looks at Eli's leg. There's blood, there's a cut in the pants. His first reaction is to stick his finger in the wound. Eli, of course, winces in pain. And then that's when Tyler rips his pants leg open to see how bad the wound is, and he can see a bone. It doesn't look good. But okay, if you were in the military, your first reaction would not be to stick your finger, his gross, possibly Bigfoot toilety finger, into his wound.
It's just a flesh wound. Let me just put my finger through there, prove it.
So then Tyler, upon seeing his wound, realizes he's got to go back to get his backpack where he has supplies to handle all this. So he goes straight back up. It does not look like it takes him very long to get back up. Finds his backpack in the same area. this is also when the climate change, there's no snow in this part either. He grabs his backpack, but then he sees something on the ground, and it's Natalie's ring. He gets really emotional, and it's kind of proof that she is gone. This is when we're given our first kind of glimpse of Bigfoot, minus the picture. And Tyler freaks out, starts running away. So then he gets back to Eli, which again, this doesn't take very long for him to go between going back and coming back. So we know it wasn't that far of a distance. I don't think he got anything out of his backpack to actually help, other than he has some kind of bandage thing, but it looks like a ripped up t-shirt. So he has to set the bone. Okay, so yeah, Tyler takes a swig of his flask and then pours it on him, which I think is kind of rude because he should have left it all for Eli. I mean, obviously he's in pain and needs to be fighting infection, but he decides to take some for himself. So then after he sets the bone, he tells Eli that they have to move. They get to this really beautiful scene, which, by the way, all the scenery in this movie is really pretty. But anyway, so we're given this shot of them by this river, really wide open spaces. Honestly, not a very good place if they're trying to stay hidden from Bigfoot because it's very wide open, no trees. Eli, this is such a cute moment. They're like snuggling by the campfire, having a bromance moment. Eli thanks Tyler for saving him. This is also the point where Tyler gives Eli his hat back, which is a staple for Eli. He's always got his hat on. And it fell off when he got hit by the rock. Eli then goes on to start to say some kind of emotional things, and Tyler's response is basically, "Shut up. You need your strength." Eli also says that he can see that Tyler really loves her, and Tyler then asks Eli if he's ever lost somebody that he loves, and Eli responds with, he had a dog once. So then they hear a noise around the trees, and they work together. Eli has his flashlight out, Tyler has his pistol out, and they move their arms together, looking around, trying to see if they can find anything. They see Bigfoot, but he doesn't like fire. We're reminded of this again. And so Eli is very confident that everything's going to be fine. He's going to go away. They're fine. And that's kind of their first night. So the next probably like 3 days of the same scenes over and over. Tyler washing off Eli's bandage, Tyler getting water for Eli, and Tyler trying to fish and not succeeding.
But you can kind of tell that the morale is low, and after a while they decide that they do need to move on, and so they move inland. Like I'm not entirely sure where they go to or why it's more safe or anything. But they move again, and instead of the one campfire that they had before, they now surround themselves with 4 campfires to keep themselves safe. Which, if you remember the interaction that Bigfoot had with the last campfire he saw, I'm not really sure that's a really good way of protecting yourself, since you're now on the line of fire of a tree. Eli looks at Tyler and tells him that Tyler's not going to make it out with him.
Something that Eli makes Tyler aware of is that they all know that there's only one way in and out of the area, which is going to be going back through Bigfoot's turf.
That night, Tyler tells him, no, we're not going to talk about it. The idea of Tyler leaving Eli behind. Eli decides that he needs to go or else his friend will not make it. So he wanders off in the middle of the night, leaving Tyler defenseless, but at least keeping the fires going. The next morning, Tyler wakes up and sees that Eli is not there. And so he immediately goes into panic mode, and he starts looking for Eli, which is surprisingly able to find pretty soon after going out looking for him. And he finds a trail of blood that he starts following, and then he hears a really loud and horrifying scream. He sees that Eli is just being dug into by Bigfoot. He's just munching in on him. While he's watching this, Bigfoot stops midway of eating and then just kind of looks up at Tyler, and that's when Tyler gets up and he starts running. And this is where I would also like to note some main character invincibility here, because this is now the second time that he is face to face with Bigfoot, and Bigfoot gives him a running start. But even though he struggles to get back up the hill, Bigfoot is able to catch up with him, and they do some hand to hand combat. It is pretty funny to think how easily he can tear up a tree to throw into a campfire, but he's just doing hand to hand punches with Tyler. But he was in the military, so maybe that's why. Tyler gets scratched up pretty bad. He drops the gun, but then after being thrown across the field, he picks up the gun again and shoots him, which makes Bigfoot cry out in pain and run away. Tyler, he's safe, but he has to dress his wounds, and he gets a huge bonfire going. And this is where you can see it in his eyes that, he's not wanting to leave anymore. He wants to fight Bigfoot.
So this is the part where I like to call it him making his combo weapons. We see him take a stick and duct tape a flare on it, and then I guess it's a different stick. I rewatched the scene, I think 3 different times, and I still don't understand what exactly happened. Then he takes another stick, he pulls it from the fire and quickly touches it right after pulling it from the fire. No idea why he had it in the fire. He takes a knife and duct tapes the knife to it, and then kind of jabs the air a little bit to show he's just made himself a spear. Then we're transported back to Tyler's car. So I guess he had no issues running into Bigfoot along the whole way. He goes to Eli's campsite. He pulls the tarp that was on the back of Eli's truck off and sees there's gasoline tanks, shakes it a little. You can tell there's some liquid in there. I joked, what if that wasn't gasoline in there? But he's assuming it's gasoline. Fair assumption, I guess. And so then we're given these couple of scenes back to back of Tyler kind of setting up the campsite for a trap for when Bigfoot comes.
Which, on that note about the gasoline, one thing to note is that gasoline does evaporate really fast. And so that probably wasn't the smartest way of prepping a trap. I would have thought they would taught him that in the military, but, I divulge.
So then we're given my least favorite scene. So he honks the horn a couple of times, and then he wedges a stick between the seat and the horn. I timed this. It's exactly 2 minutes of hearing the constant horn going. I hated this so much, and it made our cats perk their ears up and get really upset too. It's just such a annoying sound, and it's so constant. I mean, they could have figured out a way to make it so that we knew the horn was still honking, but we didn't have to hear it the whole time, or just like fade it out or something. We didn't need 2 minutes straight of this. So Bigfoot then arrives. He goes to the car. He tries to stab him through the tarp with his little makeshift spear. And then he runs to the car again, takes the stick out from the wedge, which is when we're finally relieved of the honking horn. Then Bigfoot knocks the car sideways and tries to reach into Tyler, can't reach him. So then he flips the car all the way upside down. Tyler gets out. And the whole time I'm thinking, what was he doing this whole time? He didn't look like he had a plan at all. He was panicked the whole time. Why did he run back to the car if he set up this gasoline trap and all this stuff? After the car flips upside down, then Bigfoot grabs Tyler pulls him out the other side and tries to choke him. Bigfoot is definitely strong enough, we've been shown, to just snap his neck, but he tries choking him instead. And this is when we're given our first real view of Bigfoot, a good close-ups shot. He then throws Tyler. Don't know why he didn't continue to choke him. Then Tyler grabs his gun, which he had the whole time. Why was he not using it? To notice the propane tank that's beside Bigfoot, shoots that, goes over to his flare thing that apparently he had as well, lights it, throws the flare. It all sets on fire, explodes, the truck explodes, all this stuff. Bigfoot catches on fire, and we see Bigfoot sprinting off. And that's the last we see of Bigfoot.
And he wanders onto a road, and of course, that's how he gets found. A driver comes by, and there's the scene of him, not really understanding what he's saying. He just knows that he's found and he's saved. And when we're watching this for this review, and I see this scene of this driver coming up, I just had this thought come to my head. This might be the producer. This could be like an M. Night Shyamalan, short scene, because this whole movie has, I think we looked it up, 8 actors. And so, they don't really have a whole lot of sort of like background characters except for this guy. And when we looked it up, sure enough, that was the that was the director. And so, all I say, he gets picked up and he gets brought back to civilization. He wakes up in a hospital bed. A lady's there saying, you had a really rough time. Do you remember all that happened? And he said, yes, I did. Mind you, that's all he said. And she says, okay, good. No, I'm not crazy. Which, maybe it just went that badly for him the first time when Natalie got taken. But she assures him, no, don't worry. Nobody thinks you are. He gets informed that there's somebody who would like to meet him. And we meet a sort of like Charles Xavier from X-Men character. He comes in on the wheelchair, and he starts telling him, we asked him a few more questions about what happened, and he goes on his monologue, and he says, "If you ever get that feeling that while you're alone, you're being watched, or when you're in bed and you don't want to have your feet touch the floor to turn off the light, because what if something underneath your bed grabs your feet? Well, we're the guys who make sure that the monsters stay quiet," or something along those lines. I don't remember exactly what he said. And he said, "So the important thing I ask you is, did you kill it?" And so Tyler goes, "I shot it, cut it, stabbed it, and I set that thing on fire." Oh, to which he says,
So you just pissed it off.
which, say what you want about the quality of this movie. Those are some pretty good lines right there. And the nurse says, "Oh, well, you see, we're part of a team." And the guy in the chair says, "And I am currently recruiting." So yes, this is an origin story of what we find out to be the Monster Chronicles, which has yet to have any announcement to be made. But I would definitely want to watch
Oh, for sure.
the second one, because this movie has made me want to see them. I don't know what else they would do, honestly. Like the Loch Ness monster, like I don't think would have the same feel as Bigfoot. But this is very interesting. What other monsters are they keeping quiet?
Yeah, so overall, I would give this movie an 8 out of 10 for entertaining purposes. I thoroughly enjoy it. It's definitely one of the movies that we try and introduce to as many friends and family as we can to just watch with them and laugh along. It has some really great one-liners and some really bad one-liners that just don't land. Some scenes that definitely don't make sense. But yeah, I would definitely love for there to be more movies made like this one, in the same universe. Because I think there's a lot of potential for all of this. Um, so let us know your thoughts on this movie. I did find out the other day that it's actually fully on YouTube, so you can definitely go and watch it. I highly recommend doing so. Our review can only cover so much, so see it for yourself. Watch it with some friends and family. Enjoy it. So that's gonna wrap up the video. Thank you all for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button if you like this video, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and yeah, don't let Bigfoot get you down. I don't know. Don't let Bigfoot foot your big.
Wash where you fall and wash your hands before you place it on someone else's mouth.
Good one. Good one. All right. We'll talk to you in the next one. Bye.